Hello and welcome to QUIZZY Monday. And if you're watching live for the first time, then welcome. We had 1,300 or more views on last week's stream with the Imperial College team, which was brilliant. So if you are new to us live, then fantastic and welcome. And you will be able to ask questions or post comments in the chat. So we'll love to hear what you've got to say. We've got a great show for you tonight. It was an interesting / weird / great evening, wasn't it, tonight, with Mastermind only having 3 contenders, and then what a wow finish in a University Challenge. So tonight we'll be talking about that. We've got Ben Russell-Jones and Lewis Sinclair from the Edinburgh University Challenge team on. We've got another episode of Quizzer and a reasonably simple quiz, this time with Emma Laslett playing it. We've got Quiz Week, all the news from the world of quiz with nominees for Quizzer of the Week and Team of the Week. We'll be talking about Mastermind as well, of course, as well as University Challenge, and we'll finish with our champagne moment of the night. But I'm going to bring them on. You want to hear from Ben and Lewis after quite a show tonight. It's going to be fascinating hearing what they have to say. So welcome to the stream. Ben Russell-Jones and Lewis Sinclair. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
How are we?
Welcome back, Ben. Welcome to the stream for the first time, Lewis. Good to have you on. That was... I don't know how to categorize what we just saw. It was thrilling. It was slightly bizarre at times. It was just thoroughly entertaining. How was it for you watching back such a close match?
Well, I found out that apparently Ben and I are mortal enemies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was apparently there was some body language going on.
Oh, no.
Oh, right, okay. I haven't been looking at that.
So what was that on Twitter tonight then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, we didn't take any notice of that. Lewis is a lovely person. I was shaking the whole time watching that game. I was shaking come off the set. So at the end of the game, I was just like, well, I'm gonna put my head down here and hope that no one sees me putting my head down here because I have nothing left. Yeah.
It was nerve-wracking.
It was, yeah.
It was
and it shouldn't be because it's the game that 2 winners play, so you still have another chance after if you lose. But it was still I was like this all the way through it.
I mean, it was noticeable. A higher proportion of negs from your team than I think we would have expected. Was that a deliberate policy on your team's part to try and get in early? You know, was it something about Emmanuel that you thought we've really got to be sharp on this?
So, yes, on the first neg, on the second question, that was deliberate. So we heard that Emmanuel beat St John's, and we were like, oh wow, they've improved because we had St John's down to win that game, like in theory. And I knew from one of my friends that Nicolas Thate was going very hard on the science. And I didn't want him to buzz a race like Rishi or Niall. So if I had like any idea on that on a science question before he buzzed, I wanted to get in, even if my answer was a bit unfounded. But I thought Mercury is a component of Cinnabar. There's a letter in Mercury that's G, which is also in DNA replication in some form. So I'll just shoot for it. And the Judaism one, I have no explanation for. I mean, that's just a bad answer. But that's just pure nerves at that point. There was nothing deliberate about that.
Yeah. I mean, Lewis, from your perspective, you didn't neg. You got some great buzzes. You know, when you're in a match like that, and you see the other team doing well, they put together a couple of strings of 3 buzzes and bonuses, and you know, a player like Ben, who is fantastic, and we've seen how good he's been all series, is making, is negging. Are you starting to feel, oh God, this might not be our night? What sort of things are going through your mind at that point?
I think it was. I was slightly concerned, but I think with my buzzers, I tried to be very targeted. So Russell Wallace, I'm solid on biography. I'm solid on historical people. I'm a historian by training. So that was okay. Go for it. Franz Josef, again, I did a lot of Central European history at uni, and actually my group chat, my nickname is Habsburg Loyalist. Make of that what you will. So I was, long story. So I was quite that, but my logic was, yes, we are negging at this point, but you don't know what the next question is, and you can always recover from it. And when it came for going for my buzzes, I knew I wouldn't go for something if I didn't think I had a good chance of it. And if I wasn't really certain I was going to get it. So I think Ben, he's far more of an all-round player. I will happily shrug my shoulders and withdraw from science questions, whereas Ben will go for them, as he should. So it's that.
Like a maniac.
Yeah, I suppose targeted approach, but also just utterly
focused on your real strengths, and it worked. But it was an odd one. Karina Ratner negging on phone. Oh God, how much did I feel for him when he buzzed in, and the thing he was buzzing in for is mentioned just
the next two words. That's pain.
That was painful. Agony. and Rishi with the Frankenstein buzz, which was unfortunate. I think because the two actors playing the same role thing did fit the question at that point. So
in fairness, actually, Rishi beat me to the punch on Frankenstein, and I think it's there was that. The National Theatre had a line of doing those productions, and Frankenstein is the most well-known one. So there was a nice booby trap lurking there.
And just say, like, a little bit of side information. My reaction when Niall buzzes in on the Feynman question, which isn't actually the Feynman question, is fantastic. And then the next two words, and I'm like, oh no, and I'm just like back in my chair like this. So I'm glad they didn't have like a wide angle on that, because I'm like, as soon as he buzzes, and then the next two words are Richard Feynman, I'm just like, oh, it's like we have no idea what as soon as you hear the bottom. You just buzz and say Feynman.
And it's not frustration with him for having buzzed, is it? It's frustration with the question swerving away from where you thought it was going.
Yeah, it didn't go where we used to go. Yeah, exactly. The knowledge is there. It's just,
on the other hand, Gower Peninsula fell quite nicely, Ben.
Yeah, that did, yeah. The Gower was my geography project at AS, in AS Geography. So, yeah. Pavilan Castle fell quite nicely for me there. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised when you went in on that one, but I thought what was interesting, and you mentioned about Thate, was every time you negged, he punished you for it. And we see in some other shows, you neg and the other team just sit there and don't know, or guess wrong, but he was absolutely picking those off. And again, it's one of those things where he's a quality player and he's playing well. How much did you know about Emmanuel? You said you knew they'd beaten St. John's, but how much did you know about the individual players?
We knew, well, I'd done some research into it because I was a bit obsessive about the whole process. So I tried to learn as much as I could about like the teams and what they were good at. And a friend had told me that Nicholas Thate was going very hard on the science. So that's why I went in on the second question. As for the others, like I'd only got one episode at the time of seeing James Rathall play, but he's brilliant. Like history, geography, languages. He's brilliant at all. He got the Tuatara question. I was just I don't even remember it. Like my mind's completely fuzzy when it comes to that. Cara Malcolm picks up a lot of things. And I was quite scared of Nicole Pullinger just because of the one buzz that she got in the first round was on about 5 words on a question about David Copperfield. And I thought, oh no, she's going to be beating me to all the lit at this point. And luckily, Rishi beats her to the puck, which she would have got because I'm useless on Shakespeare. I don't have a clue. So we did a lot of, I did a lot of research beforehand, but once you actually sit down in the chair and you get questions asked at you, well, any sort of question asked at you, everything just goes out the window. So
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing, that the team team dynamics and the game itself, can just play out in an unpredictable way. Claire Barrow chipping in. It was such an exciting match. Well played. It absolutely was. It's hard to kind of look back now, obviously knowing what the result was, but that last second buzz of yours, Ben, did you know that was the last question or likely to be the last question at that point?
Yeah. You get a feeling because after the third picture round, it's like that's roughly 75% of the way through, and we had a lot of questions since then. So I was like, well, we're 5 points behind. I'm going to try and Hail Mary this next one. And to be fair, on Italian mathematician and symbolic logic, I had piano in my head because I've done a symbolic logic course. He's like a big person in symbolic logic. But I just didn't pluck up the courage to buzz until the question finished because I didn't want an egg. Like it's weird how like irrational you can be like in a moment when like fear takes hold.
I think the suspension of reality thing. I watched that and I thought, oh goodness, we're going to have ages now, because I remember that final 10-second period with the piano question. I remember it as being 2 minutes. It was just
there's a little bit of editing.
Well, it was waiting for the end and just thinking, I don't have a clue on this. No, you could have told me to spot the dog and I would have believed.
We heard the last bonus category was like physics, and me and Lewis were just like, well, we're sitting back and let the physicists just do this, and then just hope the gong goes. And then when it went, I was like, incredibly relieved. Yeah, and all the tension was built up.
I thought we've had 19th century history, we've had the Habsburgs, we've had the war, which I missed. My luck has run out now. It's symbolic.
South Carolina Citadel flag, which was insane.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that because obviously you've talked about your kind of theoretical contribution, I guess, to the team. But when you're chipping in on things like the flags, what did you see your role as in the team, Lewis? Because you said Ben's a really good generalist. He's got broad-based knowledge. Surely a little bit more than the Habsburgs. In sort of slightly less academic things. Were flags one of your things?
Yeah. So by background, I'm very much history, literature, flags as well. Strangely, one of my things. And I think I kind of filled out a lot of the humanities areas, but flags kind of tie in that I was quite strong on geography, or at least have been in the past. And I don't know, flags, cities, and like kind of tied through for me. But that flag round as well was that was absolutely brilliant. I was very happy with those bonuses. And what strangely, it wasn't the South Carolina one was actually tied to the American Civil War question for me, because Bavaria and, good grief, Quebec, they were both straight up flags. But I was thinking about the American Civil War, and I thought, so I looked at military identity a lot, and I thought, okay, so that was, you got West Point, you got the Citadel, you got the VMI. That was kind of turning over in my mind, and then, ping, the Palmetto flag comes up, and I think South Carolina. So yeah, I think that's another role. Just strange connections hopping through.
And that is a really good skill for a quizzer, the ability to make a connection between disparate pieces of knowledge to get yourself to an answer, particularly when you've got a little bit of thinking time. That sort of contextual thing of, this thing happened around the same time as that, and that person was involved in this. So, you connect the dots.
Well, strange that happened with the Alfred Russel Wallace question as well. I didn't think about it from a biologist's perspective. I thought about it from who was traveling there at that time. Oh, Russel Wallace, because I read this a couple of weeks beforehand, strangely. Russel Wallace broke his spectacles about 2 weeks into the jungle and had to finish the rest of the expedition half blind. And that just kind of, I wear contacts at the moment, but I would not like to go through life with and
Not me.
that sort of stuck in my mind.
Do you think, I'm really interested in how people learn and how people quiz, and you know, as some people are numbers people and some people are words people. You know, broadly, you know, there's obviously a continuum, but you know, words people tend to like stories and things they can hook onto like that. You know, even in your studies, has that been kind of useful? It's, you know, understanding the narrative of how and why things happen. Yeah, you connect them.
I'm a very narrative person. So I work in, you know, I did my master's last year, and now I actually work in the emergency services. And part of that for me, when I'm learning concepts, learning policy, I will construct for myself how a response would be carried out. It's not simply we have X and Y. It's we have X, we use it to do Y through the following things. So I tend to create those narratives in my head, and just as with Russell Wallace's spectacles, latch on to a very particular thing.
Yeah. And that's a lovely story. Ben, how about you? What sort of learner are you? Are you you know, are you list learner, carder, contextual learner?
I honestly don't know how to answer that. I think the way I've done quiz most of my life is I remember things. Like the thing it's good for quiz, I have an insane memory. Like I remember things that like I just shouldn't remember. The only bad thing that I tend not to remember is dates, which I'm terrible at. And also like faces. I'm not very good at recognizing faces. But memory is like the main way I do quiz. And it's bad, but I basically coasted through secondary school. I got like not the best marks, but like not the worst marks ever. I did like A levels. I didn't do like that much religion. I was just like purely like a memory person, and I still really don't know like many good revision skills, to be honest with you. So yeah, I probably classify myself as like I'd say I'm probably like a narrative person as well, but you know, attach hooks onto things, try and remember them in that sort of way.
But a bit of a sponge, so you're soaking stuff up from wherever you come across it.
Yeah, usually the dour the better. Yeah, the dour tends to stick. Yeah.
So the exciting stuff just flies out of your mind, but the
exactly.
boring...
Yeah, after Russell Wallace's spectacles, I remember it now. But if someone told me that, there's a chance that's actually so interesting, I might just forget about it. Yeah.
You'll be sitting there stressing about, oh, you broke something. I just can't remember what it was. So your team, it's been interesting, also slightly depressing, some of the discussion online about team dynamics in recent weeks, and we touched on it earlier. I don't want to go into that per se, and it's been covered by the teams themselves in recent weeks. Imperial and Birmingham have, I think, more than adequately covered that. But what was your team dynamics? You know, did you have, you know, Lewis is a specialist in one particular area, you got a couple of generalists and another specialist. Did you consciously construct a team like that?
I suppose I could like constructed this as like a little bit of a thing like that, but you know, we're a close knit group, and our attitude was, Lewis, do you want to say our attitude? We go as we go. We play as we play, and that's
we went as we went.
We went, yeah.
I think our logic going in was, it will sound slightly strange, and Ben, correct me if I'm misrepresenting, but we didn't go in expecting any result. You know, we get on. We get on as a team. We're all good lads, and we just thought we'll go in, we'll do as we do, and we'll see where that gets us.
Yeah.
And I think that was. I mean, we played that Emmanuel match. And we just went and grabbed lunch because we were completely stunned, and it was just that was. I just remember sitting. I just remember sitting at a table in the Salford Quays food court, thinking,
"What just happened?" Yeah, that literally just happened. I sent a photo on Messenger like 15 minutes after the game, and my friend was like, "I can't see anything. Why have you sent me this?" What like. That's the sort of like state of mind I was in, where I was just sending like blurred photos to people, just random things in Manchester. It
was that complete just right. Well, we just did that. Let's see how we do next.
I can't believe that just happened. We should. we snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat somehow, and now let's go and to return to your question, Gareth. The team sort of took place in my mind as Lewis is humanities generalist and like sort of history specialist. I know random things from everywhere with no real knowledge behind it, but it just sticks in my head. Rishi is good at Rishi's better than me at philosophy, and he's also like good at science. He's another good generalist, basically, like dependable upon. And Niall like overlaps with Lewis a lot in the way that he's also a physicist, but he's like a history focused person. Like he knows a lot. Like that's why he buzzed on the Franco-Prussian War. Like he has some deep knowledge with him like that. So that was basically the makeup of our team.
I think
where
Niall's strengths as well. He's both a Germanist and a Russianist, so he was our preparation for language rounds as well, and then the language round was French.
Yeah,
which
and Rathel cleaned that up as he should. So that was good.
Indeed. What do you think of those language ones, which are often reliant on spotting a few words and extrapolating them? Would you rather just a picture round? A straight up name this artist kind of thing.
From the perspective that I would get it, I'd probably prefer a picture round. But from the perspective of I think it's quite interesting, I wouldn't really know, because it does test a different sort of knowledge that you don't see on University Challenge quite often. I know people, the criticism is like it's not a picture round, it's a bunch of words on screen. I think it's quite good. I think it tests some like alternate parts of knowledge from like different parts of your brain. It can't be a bad thing, I don't think. No,
and they are quite entertaining, because you look, baguette was a very logical conclusion, and then it's no, because you've missed the other part.
Yeah. Only to discover that James Rathel not only knows it but also said it in the accent as well, which was great.
Sandwich.
Yes. that was wonderful. There was one wonderful moment. I'm pretty sure it was your team. The Matrix question, which I don't even pretend to understand. I also did history, so numbers and all these things, and people were going, that's. But I loved it that it actually boiled down to one of the old chestnuts at University Challenge. Go for 1, 0, or -1, and it turned out to be 0, because that may well have been my guess had I been there. But I mean that felt like very good iterative teamwork there. As a team, how much did you lead your captain, and how much did your captain lead you in those sorts of things?
So we had a captain per se, but we were all like one team. Like there's no, the captain wasn't above the team. Rishi's a legend, but we were all 4 equals on the show. He was just the person our answers went through. So for that, when we heard the matrix, and I was like, well, I know how to find the determinant, but I completely forgot what order the numbers were in. So we had to literally put the numbers in like this, and then find the diagonals and then minus them. So it ended up being 3 times 4, 12, minus 2 times 6, 12. So it just ended up being 0. But yeah, it did end up being like one of the old the chestnuts of UC, which is just like it's -1, 1 or 0, which was entertaining. But
I mean, the way you put it there, I kind of understand it. But I guess this is my fault for ditching maths at GCSE.
Fair.
In terms of the bonuses that you guys got, were there any that you particularly loved answering?
The first bonus set on like early 20th century literature is basically knocking on my front door. Like when he said a novel of 1925, I was like, well, that's The Great Gatsby, because that's the only novel that they published in 1925. Except it was the other one, it was Mrs. Dalloway, which is the other novel that was published in 1925. So I really enjoyed that, and the fact that I led people away from The Hound of the Baskervilles still rubs me up the wrong way a bit. But that was the bonus that I personally enjoyed the most. I think without communication, the best bonuses that we probably answered were like the flags, because like we were just like blue and white, Lewis, South Carolina, and then Quebec, and it was done.
Weirdly, I enjoyed the flag ones because, as Ben said, knocking on the door. But the ones that I most enjoyed watching were the Roman towns, because there is something remarkably cathartic about watching your ego get completely taken down to size on national television.
Essex plus doesn't matter. It's fine.
Well, it was I sort of answered those and thought, well, I did, Roman Britain as part of my undergrads, and then remembered halfway through answering that it was the one paper in my part ones that I could never get my head around. So we are where we are. I'm a modernist for a reason. But yeah.
No, I was similarly struggling. If you ask me where Watling Street starts, I'm fine with that. If you ask me where it ends, no. Fossway, I know, goes through Leicester. Ermine Street goes up to Lincoln, but kind of the start and end of these things, which was kind of critical, was the problem.
The only concrete knowledge there was that verily me and St Albans. That was the only thing in that round that I was certain about at all. I was just like, I was trying to look everywhere else but at my teammates, because I had nothing to offer until you could finally latch on to the former name of St Albans in the last part.
And I was just sitting there thinking, right, well, I've obviously earned this with karma, so here we go.
Well, it comes to us, mate. Simple as that.
We had a discussion point last week, which I was interested in, which was, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Gilbert. Was saying everything kind of fell his way last week. All of his favourite subjects came up, and then as I was saying, but does that make you worry that then the next one is going to be an absolute nightmare for you? Do you have that sort of thought process of, well, we didn't get any of my pet subject this game, so we might have some next time? Do you have that sort of thought?
We've had it as a team, because I know Rishi's been sad about some of the bonuses that the team has got. Well, he loves philosophy, and as of this point in the competition, I think we had one philosophy bonus. And that's all the geography. That's all the philosophy content we've had, which I sympathise with them. But yeah, I mean, I suppose, because they're not going to ask about your pet subjects again. They weren't going to ask about. They're not going to ask about the Gower Peninsula in the next game, I don't assume. But when something like that comes up, it's just you cherish it, you move on, you try and do your best with the other questions, and that's probably the attitude you have to take. But it is lovely when all of your pet subjects come up in one go. That's this one of the best feelings in Buzzer Quiz is when that happens.
That was my thing as well. I sort of thought, right, well, we've had flags; they're not going to come up in the next episode, and we've had niche Austrian history and geography. That's not going to come up in the next episode. I was sort of sitting there after those buzzers and sort of praying, send some questions on fire engines my way. Just I need operational policy questions. We've got niche, get niche.
that would be niche indeed. How long did you have? You won this match into the semis. Did you film the semis in the next block? Was it like the same day, next day, or was it sometime after?
We filmed that on the Saturday, and then filmed the semi on the Monday.
On the Monday, yeah. Okay. And that's about all we can say until the broadcast.
Yeah, no, I don't. We don't want to know what happens. Not yet, not until the actual show.
Of course. Yeah.
Between your quarter that we just seen and the semi, what did you do as a team? Did you think, right, semi-final, let's drill ourselves, practice, or let's chill?
I myself, I went back to my room and just sat down on the chair in the corner, and I was trying to get my head around what happened and how close and I was considering all the things that just happened. If I'd negged one question, we'd be we'd lose unless the question I neg they didn't pick up. We'd lose, or it just goes to a tiebreak, and I think my heart would have given out on national TV in that sort of thing. But for the rest of the day, we went for some food, ended up going back to the hotel, and I just tried to chill as much as possible and not think about think about the game, because I wasn't in the best mental state as it was coming out of that game. Don't know about Lewis.
Yeah, how about you?
it was a strange one. Like Ben, I thought, I don't know how we made that through. I went back to, I do a lot of walking anyway, so I think I just walked around Salford Quays listening to, strangely, I found myself listening to a song from Everyone's Talking About Jamie on repeat. I just got like seared into my memory. But yeah, it was very strange because we had this psychological thing for almost the year preceding of, we'll just play as we play, see where that gets us. You know, take it as it comes. And I just remember standing in the middle of Salford Quays because, you know, Uni Challenge is fantastic. And I was in a very different place. It was just a very strange inflection point. And I remember just standing there thinking, right, 18 months ago, I was somewhere not very pleasant. A year ago, I made it onto University Challenge by what felt like a fluke. And now we're about to go into the semis.
Just for context, it wasn't a fluke, but go on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It felt strange. And we're about to go into the semis. Okay. And it was just that very strange thing. So I spent most of the Sunday walking. And I had to, ironically, I'd been very clear with my manager at work that, you know, I couldn't tell her how it went. And then I had to just drop her a text and say, by the way, I'm not going to be in on Monday. And actually, strangely, quite a few guys I work with are watching it tonight, so I'll have to deal with that tomorrow. But yeah, it was a very strange experience, and in hindsight, quite a lovely one.
I mean, I you know, these things can actually be quite empowering, quite sort of developmental, and it's interesting. I don't want to pry or know what, you know, your challenging situation was, Lewis, but coming out the other side of this, what has University Challenge done for you, kind of in terms of maybe changed outlook, or, you know, are you a different person as a result of it?
I'm a different person insofar as I'm 18 months, 2 years older. But also it's been a very strange and good experience. Because I was working for a period after my undergrad, then I went back to Edinburgh. I just remember someone saying, completely on the off chance, when I mentioned that I was going back to uni, they just said, "You considered Uni Challenge?" Not in a pleasant way. It was very much sort of off you go, do that. The temptation to drop them an email tonight and just say, yes, I did, is, you may have noticed, is quite overwhelming. But I think it's just, and Ben might have something to say on this as well. There is something wonderful about University Challenge in that you can just be yourself. And all that weird knowledge you've got squirreled away, you know, the Red Lady of Paveland, piano, the Habsburgs, you can just let it rip. And that's quite...
It's quite beautiful in a way.
It's
like,
nice.
like areas that you haven't touched in your brain for a while that can come up just like on national TV.
Exactly.
You know,
and there is, you know, it's in the best sense of the words, in the most, and I said this to lads when we finished, you know, there are those moments where you see all of us do it, and it's just these grins. It's that grin, it's that spark, and it's just that completely almost primal. I actually got that. That's good. And it's just, it's a joyful experience. It's incredibly fun. And yeah, quite, as I said, I remember standing in Salford Quays and just thinking, I've actually done this.
And all those bits of,
I've done it.
All those bits of knowledge, all those interests which others don't get, and all of a sudden they're validated on national TV. They've got a currency and a value, and you know that's your turf. You know, other people can kick a ball or, you know, whatever, a spectacular in other fields, you guys found your playing area where you could utilize your skills, your knowledge, all those things that kind of perhaps other people don't value. You've been able to get it out there. It is quite a fantastic thing when it comes off like that.
And I think I think the coming off and finding your turf thing is really important, because when I was a kid, I thought, hey, University Challenge is quite cool. Then I left uni having, I tried out for my college's team, but that was that. And I just thought, oh, well, that's that. Set it away. And then I didn't think I was going to go back to uni. I went back and I circled back to it.
Yeah.
And it was just that moment of, I got to play on my turf, our turf, without ever thinking I would. And having been in a position which made me think, now that's gone. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna have that.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Sorry.
And one last thought before I'm gonna have to play our Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz, which is only 3 minutes or so. But a little while ago, Ben, you said about kind of where your head was at, going into that last buzz. You'd negged by saying Talmud when it was Torah. But when all's said and done, you had some fantastic buzzes, and what is it about you that rather than kind of shrinking into the background and into the scenery when you've negged and the consequences could be bad, that made you think, I'm still up for this, and I'm going to go for this, and I'm not going to leave it to other people. I'm going to take ownership. What is it in you, Ben, that kind of made that happen?
Too many things, but I suppose the main one would be like I can flash back to when I was on Millionaire, and I was on Millionaire. I didn't do that well. I ran into some difficulties. Ended up with $8,000, which is still something. But the one thing I said while I was on that show was quizzing's basically been one of the only things in my life that I've been like any sort of good at. So I played rugby, never really played football. Everyone else plays rugby. That's whatever. Played football. Didn't really have much of a sporting thing. Tried cricket. That didn't work. Can't really play board games. And then I came to the Quiz Society at Edinburgh one January, I think. I signed up at the start of the year, and I only came on January because I was too anxious to come. But I came and I was like, okay, well, I found my place. This is a place where I have all the useless things in my head that shouldn't be in my head I can actually get to use somewhere. And I think that a little bit of that came out in the last buzz, where I was like, well, I know Giuseppe Piano's an Italian mathematician, and I know he has something to do with logic. I have no idea what Latine Sine Flexione is, but if I don't buzz now, I'm never going to buzz. So let's try.
And that was a similar thing with trains. It was just, hey ho, it might be. We'll see. Bang.
Yeah,
it was.
Let's go. Let's shoot.
Yeah. Chris says Joseph Wright was a great buzz. He doesn't come up in quizzes much. No, I mean true. But to get in nice and quick as well, because I'm sure others knew that was fantastic. And again, that's the other art, isn't it? It's not just knowing stuff; it's being quicker than the other team to get in on it. We are going to very quickly take a short break to look at Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz, which is our new competition running over the remainder of this series. So sit back and enjoy Emma Laslett taking on this challenge. Welcome, Emma Laslett, our second player for Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz. Good to have you, Emma.
Good to be here.
Well, let's just quickly run through the rules. There are 15 questions. There are only 3 answers across the 15 questions, and we're going to tell you what those are. You're playing for your place on the leaderboard. The first criterion on the leaderboard is how many you score correctly. The second and tie-breaking criterion is who is the quickest. I will move on to the next question as soon as you answer. You can only answer once. You can interrupt me. But if you interrupt and you are incorrect, there is a second penalty, as well as not getting that question right. You happy with the rules, Emma?
Yep.
So you have a choice of set A or set B. Which one would you like to pick?
Let's say B, please.
Okay. So your answers are blue, shed, and whip. That is blue, shed, and whip. Blue, shed, whip. Blue, shed, whip. Get that in your head. Okay, are you ready to start?
I am indeed.
So the time will start when the first slide and question come up. Okay, here we go. According to the band Devo, what should you do to it? Cerulean is a shade of what colour? Lindy St. Clair, who claimed to know 252 MPs, was most associated with which? Eiffel 65 sang about a little guy. In 2005, what
shed.
In forestry, what word refers to a young unbranched tree seedling up to a metre in height? Cole Porter wrote a 1936 show called Red Hot and what?
Blue.
Number 12 Downing Street is the home of the chief what? Sir Edward Elgar's early works were named what music? What was the first man-made object to break this? The Fulham Road end of Chelsea's Stamford Bridge Stadium is more commonly known as the what?
Shed.
What is the first name of the youngest person to feature on a Billboard chart hit? She appeared on her father's single Glory in 2012. What type of note associated with jazz is a non-standard note that falls between the cracks?
Whip.
What word could be followed by the band that had hits in the 1990s? And that is it. Okay, so you got 14 out of 15, Emma. Are you pleased with that?
Yeah, I'll take that.
The only one you got wrong.
My knowledge of jazz, as ever.
Yeah, jazz, that's Blue Note jazz.
Blue Notes, I realised that in retrospect.
So that's the only one you got wrong. So we will now take a look at the leaderboard. And we can see that you are tied on 14 points with Claire Barrow, but by virtue of being 8 seconds quicker, you are now number 1 on the leaderboard. Will the next player be able to come and topple you from the top? So thank you so much for playing, Emma. It's been great having you. We will see over the course of this very short series who comes top in the Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz. But thank you so much for playing, Emma.
Thanks for having me on. That was a lot of fun.
So that was Quizzer in a reasonably simple quiz. That was Emma Laslett going to the top of the table. We've got another one next week in the bag. We need some more people to take on this challenge. We've got a couple of people lined up to film. But if you want to play, email allthingsquiz@gmail.com. And there's no prizes associated with this. It's just a bit of fun, as Emma said. And now in retrospect, after what somebody said last week, Quiz Whack-A-Mole would be a much better title for that particular quiz. But anyway, we are back with Ben and Lewis. We talked a lot about your University Challenge experience, but I want to touch on Mastermind. Mastermind was odd tonight. Brendan says, the oddest Mastermind I've ever seen. Has there ever been an empty seat before? I don't know. Pam says, don't think so. They usually have a reserve. Dropouts must have been very late on. And a chap on Twitter called John Ellsworth said that he'd been taken ill. So last show to be filmed, somebody taken ill perhaps on the day. There isn't anybody to prepped with a subject to take part. So it was a little bit odd. What did you make of it, Ben?
Yeah, it was unique. I was going to ask. I had two questions basically. One, has this ever happened before? And two, how are they going to fill the time? Because there's a bit of time left for the thing, and it turns out they filled it with a little montage of the people who'd already qualified, which is fine. But yeah, it didn't particularly affect my enjoyment of the show. It was still very entertaining to watch. And once the questions start asked, you're dialed in, and you're just paying attention to the questions. So yeah.
Yeah, the subjects tonight: Grace Kelly, the Cadfael novels, and Beatles sessions. So quite a, want a better word, lowbrow set of questions. It'd be interesting to know what John was going to do. They try and spread the subjects around a bit. Any of those are particularly appealed to you?
I suppose all of them in a way, because they all interested me. Like I wanted to watch them play the round. I wouldn't get many points on any of them because my knowledge isn't specialized for Grace Kelly, Brother Cadfael, or the Beatles recording sessions. And in fact, I think I got maybe 3 or 4 right all combined, to be honest, because they were all quite hard. But it was impressive for all of them, 12, 10, 10 amongst the three contestants in a row is good. Shows they're prepared for it. They know their specialist subject, and if you know your specialist subject, you've got a good chance of doing well. So yeah, it was good to watch.
Lewis, I don't know. Now University Challenge is over. Have you got ambitions to be on something like Mastermind?
In an ideal world, it's something not something that's really crossed my mind, but if it came to it, I'd be very happy to do it.
And would you be falling back on your love of the Habsburgs?
No, I think actually my sort of go-to if I'd appeared on Mastermind topic is actually Tintin.
Tintin.
I go for that's my ideal bonus round would be the Adventures of Tintin.
No, this I didn't know. This is good.
this you know now, Ben. This you know now. I can probably Tintin or Blackadder. Those would be my in an ideal world ones.
And what is it about Tintin then?
I practically digested them as a kid.
Okay.
No, I've got very fond associations with them and with the books, and it's just I don't know, for some reason they stick. For some reason the trivia sticks in my head, and I also think that it crosses my mind whenever I have to describe a word, or this one but not that one. The joke about the Thompson's name sticks in my head. Thompson with a P is in psychology, and Thompson without a P is in Venezuela. But I don't know. It crosses my mind.
I mean, people take different approaches to it. Some people just want to learn a subject from fresh. Some people want to return to something that they cherish, like you suggested, Ben. What would your approach be if you had to go on? Would you be revisiting a pet subject, or thinking, I'd fancy learning about something new?
I wouldn't mind exploring either path, because doing the latter is interesting and you get to learn more things, but doing the former is probably more assured in the way that, if I had to go with, and I'm going to reveal my hand a bit here, if my special subject was Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something like the World Series of Poker, that would be sort of falling back on what I know already. Whereas if I wanted to do something along the lines of, I don't know, the works of Bernardine Evaristo, that would be an interesting thing to go. So I haven't read much Bernardine Evaristo, but I would like to. But if I were to go down like the latter route, it would have to be something either literature based or like humanities based, because can't really do science. The brain's too small for that, unfortunately. But I'm willing at pursuing anything. It's just all fun at the end of the day.
Catherine says, blistering barnacles. I like Tintin too. And Gerard, Tintin and Asterix, the classics. I would say probably for me, Asterix was for me what Tintin might have been for you. I never quite got on with Tintin, but I loved the historical thing. I loved when Asterix met, Cleopatra or Julius Caesar, things like that. So I get where you're coming from. When it was
Asterix is very dear to my heart as well. But I think it's so maybe it's because it's the very deep-seated thing. Tintin got there first.
You wouldn't want to be cheating on Tintin. You never know. Maybe he's not jealous. So Mastermind, general knowledge wise, Graham came out on top. It was another close run thing, because your game went down to the very last question. He felt like he stumbled a little over the line. Might have won by more, ended up winning by one. What did you make of the general knowledge, Ben? When you're playing that, are you playing it through the prism of being a University Challenge player, or I'm kind of used to that sort of question, or do you just take everything as it comes?
I don't think you have to take a little different approach than University Challenge, because University Challenge you can interrupt the question, whereas in Mastermind you have to take all the information in and then give a good answer. So I suppose that would be the answer to that. As for what I thought of the general knowledge, I thought mainly they were good. I thought Jill was unlucky because she clearly had a mental block halfway through and knew her stuff. Like, for instance, like the one thing I have noted down here, she mixed up Artemis and Atalanta, which is, you know, goddess of the hunt, with Atalanta, the swift-footed goddess, who's also linked with hunting. And she also mixed up Saul Bellow, who did Henderson the Ring King, and I think set that in Africa. But with Ernest Hemingway, who did a lot of stuff in Africa as well. So her answers were good. It's just, you know, the pressure sometimes gets to you. And also, I like the fact in new questions they slipped in Charlie's arm to bring back to the two Ronnie sketch, which is that's a nice thing for the quiz people.
It's interesting. Interesting you say that, because you can tell people with good quiz knowledge by the wrong answers they give. You know, if they're throwing out a very good, plausible wrong answer, you know that there's knowledge in there. You know they're probably choosing between multiple ones. And I think we did see that with Jill tonight.
I agree with that.
Titian and Tintoretto as well was another one that Pam says. You know, another hit in the bar kind of.
Two Venetian painters. I mean, what are you going to do?
Indeed, yeah. So, yeah. So we have Graham in the semi-final. Sorry, promoted him overly rapidly. It was interesting seeing the preview of the semi-final, and we were wondering how they were going to fill the time that, you know, one empty chair would create, and I liked that preview. I think one of the things that I think perhaps shows don't do, and one of the reasons why I like doing this show, is kind of treating it more like a sport. You know, looking forward to what's going to happen in the semi-finals. Let's have a look at the contenders and how they might, you know, shape up against each other. I like that sort of analysis, but maybe that's just the uber nerd in me. When you're watching that, you know, what were you thinking? Oh, this is filler, or is this useful?
I thought it was nice for very much the same reasons. Like, I like the continuity between episodes, and, like, you know, the stats is nice. The stats is a nice thing to have on with respect to University Challenge, but also with Mastermind, if people do Mastermind stats. That's a very nice addition. And I completely agree with treating it like a sport. Although that's like a different conversation to be had, and I'm very happy to have that conversation.
We probably haven't got enough time tonight. But yeah.
No, maybe not. No, but yeah, I like the continuity, treating all the competitors with, you know, having some background knowledge of everybody, doing some like previews and stuff. I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. Interesting. Brendan saying first heat was broadcast in August, so it's nice to have a reminder of the winners. Yeah, you do need a reminder that these series go on a long time, don't they? From the first episodes to now, and we're still probably a good 6-7 weeks from the end of everything. So that was Mastermind. We will take a short break, very short break, because time is running out, as I do Quiz Week and run down the news from the world of quiz and the nominees for Quizzer and Team of the Week. So I'll pop Ben and Lewis back into the waiting area. When we come back from Quiz Week, I will be picking your brains to find out what your champagne moment of the night was. It might be quite an obvious one. It might not be an obvious one, but your favorite moment of the night, we'll do that in just a few minutes' time. So, Quiz Week. Add to stream. So, if we move on to the first slide, winner of Quizzer of the Week last week was Ronnie Jackson. Ronnie top scored in the Quiz League of London last week and was Team of the Week in both OQL and OQL USA. Second was Victoria Gross, third Ewan Macaulay. Winners of Team of the Week were No Hat Mafia, who won the Connections Online Quiz League World Championship. Second were Imperial College after their win last week, their stonking win over a very good Reading team. Third was Southampton University for their Quiz Bowl victory. Don't forget, you can nominate a player or a team for Quizzer of the Week or Quiz Team of the Week at tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. Nominations can come in till 5 o'clock next Monday. In our What is the Question competition, the answer last week was Drew, and the winner was by Richard Aubrey. What is the surname of the teenage sleuth who solves the mysteries of the moss-covered mansion, Tolling Bell, and Lilac Inn? So well done, Richard. The current answer in need of questions, indeed has questions, is Gust. Very typical with our Eunice era that we're in right now, or I can't remember what the next one is. But anyway, our windy era. So Gust was the answer. We have a bunch of answers that you need to vote on now to find our shortlist for the final. That's tinyurl.com/WITQ-Gust. So vote for that. I mentioned earlier, we are looking for players for QUIZZY in a reasonably simple quiz. So email us at allthingsquiz@gmail.com if you fancy playing. And we also have coming up this week. It's been a long time in production, but this is a Quiz Academy video of things every quizzer should learn about Chinese dynasties. It's our pint-sized guide to 4,000 years of history, the sorts of things that come up, the sorts of things you should know. And I will warn you, there is a brilliant mnemonic in there to remember the order of the major dynasties, but the warning is I sing it. But if you learn the song, you will never forget that order. So look out for that coming this week. And don't forget, we are still looking to get to our 1,000 subscriber mark. We're at 950 now. So if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please click that button. It will help us get there. It will also help more people like you to find us and find our videos. So moving on to the news from the world of quiz. In the online quiz league, there were 5 full houses this week. Nominations therefore go to Dave Cowan, Ray Eaton, Tim Hall, David Stainer, and Tony Walmsley. Match of the round was Compulsory Mantis Shrimps versus the Unknowns, with the Shrimps taking it 50-51. But a Team of the Week nomination goes to Lovecraft at a Time of Cholera, who, despite being American, now top Division 1 in OQL. Their team this week was Brandon Blackwell, Scott Blish, Victoria Gross, and Troy Meyer. In OQL USA, for once, Gross and Meyer and their teammates in Neutral Milf Hotel aren't having things all their own way. They sit second in the Division 1 table. Performance of the week was by the Dunning-Kruger experts, who scored 55 points and remain unbeaten in Division 4. The only full house of the week was Megan McLeod of Threat Level Midnight, GMT 7 p.m. Eastern. Megan gets a nomination for Quizzer of the Week, and Dunning-Kruger experts for Team of the Week. In the Pop Culture Challenge, there were some brilliant performances this week, but one person stands out, and that was Lewis Jones, with 15 out of 15 of his own questions. He, of course, gets a nomination. In the Asian Quiz League, the topsy-turvy craziness in the Premiership continues. In a sign of how competitive this league is, the top 3 in Season 1, Aardvarks, Matunga, and Zero Gravita, all lost convincingly. And amazingly, Aardvarks, the Series 1 champions, are now at the bottom of the table. The only team to have lost all 3 matches. The new leaders after 3 rounds of matches are the American super team, 120 Days of Sodor. They comprehensively smashed Zero Gravita 43-30. And it's that woman again, Victoria Gross, who got all of her own questions correct for the 3rd straight week. Season 2 champions, the Syndicate, and runners-up Remembrance of Things Fast faced off in one of the highlights of the week, and it ended in a 35-all draw, going to the very last question. Perhaps the shock of the round was in the championship, where Quizaholics Anonymous beat Team Europe very comprehensively, 39-26. This was an outstanding performance against a team loaded with talent, including Carol Samato of Estonia and Thomas Kolosetta of Norway. For that, they get a nomination. In the Quiz League London, there were 3 full houses this week. Kevin Ashman, David Provisa in Division 1, and Thomas Grinier in Division 2. Grey Monks are the form team in Division 1 and sit on top of the table. There are 5 games left between them and their 2nd league title. In Division 2, it looks like Misfits are romping it to the title, while CFAX almost stumbled against bottom of the table Victoria Phoenix, needing a 2-pointer on the final question to seal a win. Banana Splits top Division 3 after drawing with 2nd place Bangkok Bad Boys, and Sublime Objects are top of Division 4. But the performance of the week was All Sorts, who are in hot pursuit of Grey Monks at the top of Division 1 and scored 64 points against Pineapple. In Mimi as well, the top scorers last week were Scott Blish and Tejas Rajay, so they get nominations. And the Connections Online Quiz League got going again this week. There were wins for reigning champions Krabs, Cardi B, and Chaos Inc., but a nomination goes to the String section, who scored a massive 46 points. Don't forget the Quizzing World Cup. Final of the Quizzing World Cup will be broadcast on YouTube at 10 p.m. UK time on Saturday, as Astatine Hunger Force of the US and Australia Gold of Australia, funnily enough, vie for the title. And we saw tonight that Graham won Mastermind, and in a thrilling match, Edinburgh won University Challenge. But now a recap of the nominations. So this week's nominations are Kevin Ashman, Scott Blish, Dave Cowan, Ray Eaton, Thomas Grinier, Tim Hall, Lewis Jones, Megan McLeod, David Provisa, Tejas Rajay, David Stainer, and Tony Walmsley for Quizzer of the Week. And for Team of the Week, All Sorts, Dunning-Kruger Experts, Lovecraft and the Time of Cholera, Quizaholics Anonymous, and the String section. You can vote at tinyurl.com/QW21Feb through to 6 p.m. on Friday evening. And I think that is it for Quiz Week this week. So I will now return to our normal programming. And Ben and Lewis, I bring you back onto the stream as we close it out. Oh, there's a lot of reaction to me saying I'm doing a song. Catherine says, thank goodness, fed up with blurting out Han all the time for your random Chinese dynasty. And Pam says Ming. Song. There's a pun there. And Catherine, I think, is doing a Goon Show reference there with Ming Song, Middle Eye Po. So that is not song.
It's got jet propelled flying naffy afterwards. Well, it wasn't the food court, the flying naffy. But...
Sorry, what was that, Lewis? Sorry.
Another Goon Show reference.
Okay.
Sadly, cut it at the beginning, so we couldn't hear it. But yeah, that landed quite well if it actually registered on the audio.
Yeah. Oh, we lost you again there, Lewis.
I think it's just because you think your computer might be a bit away from you.
Yeah, don't worry. There we go. So, lots to look forward to. As I say, I'm really interested to hear how that Chinese dynasty video lands because I intended it to be a very short gallivant through 4,000 years of history. It turned out to be a slightly longer one, but hopefully worth watching. Now, tonight, is it even worth asking what the highlight of the night was? Because really, Ben is nodding. I think somebody nominated. Here we are, the empty chair, which was interesting. Why they kept the chair? I don't know. They could have just had the three people. Empty chair made me think of Roy Hattersley on Have I Got News for You. Anyway, so nomination from Chris for the empty chair. Ben, you are allowed to nominate yourself if you would like to, your moment. But what was your champagne moment?
I have a couple of other ones. I put the last buzz down as like an option, but I'm not going to say that. Actually, I'm going to nominate. I have two options from UC and one from Mastermind. The Mastermind one was the get of King Lear in the I Am a Walrus question by David Priest, which I thought was a very good answer and was a very interesting question, which is why I put it down. I was like, well, that's very interesting. Someone to note that down. But from UC, I have Cara Malcolm buzzing on Kerry, which is basically when we asked what was the best buzz after the show, I remember Rishi and I agreed that we had absolutely no idea on the Kerry question, and it just sort of came out of nowhere. So I put that down, and also Lewis's Franz Josef buzz, which I was always going to put because that's basically knocking on Lewis's front door, and Lewis finally getting his content or the content that he truly loves and holds close to his heart is good stuff for UC. So if I had to choose one, I'd probably choose the Franz Josef buzz, but just those three.
Yeah. Brilliant buzz. Lewis, again, you are allowed to pick yourself if you want, but what was your highlight of tonight's quizzing?
Not having a heart attack. No, I would say it was actually Ben's final buzz. It was an insanely stressful match, and he kept his cool. He came into it, but also going back to what we were talking about earlier about that, it's where the random knowledge comes in. Yeah, I think if we're looking for an illustration of why it's a great show, that no one knew how it was going to go. It could have gone either way, and Ben just kind of grabbed it for us. And it was just a fun match.
It was a fun match, but it was also very stressful, which is a bit paradoxical. But
fun
we were playing a nice team. Sorry, Lewis, what was that?
It was fun in retrospect.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah.
Apparently, although I'm surprised you can recognise me, apparently you just got to deal with this for the entire.
Yeah, ignore that. Don't worry about
that. There is a lot of nonsense talked on Twitter, and people have got a bee in their bonnet about people being ignored on UC, and confirmation bias runs rampant on this. So I wouldn't worry about that at all.
It put me towards the end of the thing because I didn't shut up. It's fine. I didn't have anything to say. It's chill. If someone's looking towards Rishi, that's absolutely fine.
I think my. I mean, I think there were some interest. We haven't even talked about his ruling out the Mary Stuart answer, which I think was a correct decision, because she said Mary Queen of Scots.
Yeah, only because they were asking for the play. Otherwise, they would have a case for a protest. But yes, Mary Stuart, not Mary Queen of Scots. She was unlucky. Carl was unlucky. It was good deduction.
The mascot, the dolphin with shades. I think that was good one. The classic UC mascot never goes wrong. I have to say, my moment was not so much your buzz, Ben. It was your reaction to your buzz. That was what I loved, and that because that was the moment where you see how much this means. But if you just buzzed, said it, and were just nonchalant about it, that would be one thing. But your reaction to it, if again, we don't want to get into the whole debate about is quiz a sport, etc. But the reaction there was like somebody scoring a last-minute winner in football, or running somebody out at the end of a cricket game to to win it. It was that sort of emotion, and I loved it because it shows that this stuff matters to people. It matters to you when you're playing. You talk about it stressful. It's only stressful because you're invested in it and it matters. Because if you didn't care,
Yeah.
But I just loved it. I thought it was that was my moment. Not so much that you got the answer right, but the reaction to getting the answer right. I loved it. Chris Dyson is saying the Gower. So we all have our favourite.
My homeland. Yeah.
The land of your fathers. Look, thank you so much for. Oh, here we are. Hang on. Catherine likening it to her Children of a Lesser God moment in a Quiz League knockout match. We all have those. I think we can identify with that. That's the thing. I think quizzes can identify with those moments. But look, thanks so much for coming on. Ben, thank you for coming back on. Lewis, thanks for making your debut. It's been delightful having you. Thanks to everybody who's watched. We really appreciate you, and everybody watching on catch up. Thank you very much. We are live every Monday night at 9:05. So don't forget, you can vote for the Quizzer and Quiz Team of the Week at tinyurl.com/QW21Feb, and you can vote for what is the question to get to the shortlist at tinyurl.com/WITQGust. We will be back next week, where we will be in the first week of Mastermind semi-finals. We will be still in the quarterfinals of University Challenge. I don't know who those teams are as of yet, because BBC don't like to tell us these things. But we will work it out, and we will be back next week. And I hope you'll be able to join us. But until then, goodbye and have a fantastic week, everybody.